Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to another episode of That Nerdy Site Show, a weekly podcast where the team members from That Nerdy Site get together to talk about our lives and all of the nerdy things we love about them. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and joining me this week we have Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cameron?
Gotta go fast, Trevor.
Gotta go fast indeed. Today is going to be all about our Sonic the Hedgehog 2 movie Spoilercast. As is pretty much always the case when we do these Spoilercasts, we'll do spoiler-free thoughts first for those that haven't been able to get out and see the movie this week. And then we'll give a very clear delineation of when we're going to hop into spoiler-filled territory. And this one has some fun little spoiler things, so it'll be a fun conversation, no doubt. A little bit of housekeeping before we hop into any of that, though. Go check out That Bond Show over on youtube.com/thatnerdysite. We have officially entered the Timothy Dalton era of Bond as Logan and I work through every Bond movie. And I am so glad to be removed from Roger Moore. I think I've been teasing that for a couple weeks now, but it's just good to be out of the Roger Moore era. I really like what Timothy Dalton brought to things. Our episode on The Living Daylights is up now for everybody. And we're like peek behind the curtain in terms of like recording schedule. We recorded GoldenEye a couple nights ago, and we're going to record Tomorrow Never Dies tomorrow. So I've already sat down and watched those, and I'm like, hey, those hold up better than I thought they were going to from like those Bond movies of my youth. That I think those ones probably were still hitting in a like pre-Austin Powers era, or maybe they're like early enough in Austin Powers that they haven't like completely been lampooned. But yeah, go check out That Bond Show, and also check out our ongoing series Friday Night Dying Light with Cameron Abbott here on Friday nights as he continues to play through Dying Light. We've reached double digits in episodes on that one, so there's plenty for you to enjoy. And I think he's got like another 10 in the can already or something, so that'll be going on for the foreseeable future. So go check that out for some Friday Night Lights Dying Light themed love. Lastly, if you like what you hear, please remember, as always, to like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, ring notification bells on YouTube, all the good things to help algorithms, so that more people can hear our silly, belligerent thoughts on video games, movies, and other random things.
I've been told, Trevor, I have been told that if you want to make sure people hit the like button, you threaten to punch them in the throat.
I mean, I don't know if that would... I feel like that would violate YouTube's terms of service. So, no.
Philip DeFranco does it.
Okay. I don't know if he's necessarily the paragon. Like, he's very popular and gets the work, but I don't think he's like the paragon of abiding by YouTube's terms and conditions. So, yeah,
It's a suggestion.
Don't threaten physical violence. That's a general rule.
Fair.
So,
I didn't threaten to slap anybody, Trevor.
Yeah, no, you just threatened to punch them in the throat, which arguably significantly worse. So yeah, don't do any of that. Just push a like button. That's way easier than either of these things. Anyway. Let us dive right on in to spoiler-free thoughts on Sonic the Hedgehog 2. You and I went and saw this last night over at our local Majestic Theater, a.k.a. the former Alamos. And what did you think? Obviously, we talked a little bit about it, but for our audience, what did you think, Cameron?
I loved it. It is just such a great successor to the original Sonic film. It completely holds up to like being like a sequel that takes what the first one did and does it better, more efficient, and and then raises that to the next level. Yeah, it's everything you want out of a Sonic sequel. I know like the last time we talked to Sonic the Hedgehog was before the pandemic, which feels like a lifetime ago.
Yeah, so, I mean, like
a couple years.
The original Sonic was probably one of those last movies that like we probably saw together in theaters. I feel like the last movies I saw before the pandemic were like Sonic and Emma, and I'm pretty sure I saw Emma by myself.
You did.
But yeah, like so we saw Sonic together like right before lockdown and all that stuff.
Mm-hmm. Well, it was I think we saw Sonic right before we went to PAX East.
Right. Yeah.
And then like the day after we came back from PAX East, lockdowns had started happening.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it was a couple weeks after PAX, but yeah, I mean,
Oh
it
no,
is definitely
I got
a.
sent home
Oh,
from
okay,
work. That's what happened. I'm remembering now. My site got shut down because somebody came with COVID.
gotcha.
And so, like, gosh, those were the days.
Yeah,
Somebody came in with COVID and tested positive for it, shuts the entire site down. Like, literally, thousands of people had to go home. And then they had like, and that's when my work from home kind of started.
yeah. Mine started as I tweeted out a little bit ago. St. Patrick's Day 2020 was my last day in the office. So that would have been a couple weeks post getting back from PAX. Um, but yeah, it's definitely a movie, a series that has now kind of bookended the pandemic, even though
In a
obviously
weird way.
we are still in it and there are still, variants that because people can't, just show freaking common decency and sense. But it's a lot better than it was, obviously. And yeah, it's weird that I was texting my sister. She was like, I guess the first one must have been good if they went ahead and did a second. I was like, well, it was one of the last movies before the pandemic. And so that meant it ended up being one of the biggest movies of 2020. so, so yeah, they're leaning into it. And, it will not surprise me if this one does better because obviously I think it will have more time in the box office to get eyes on it.
Mm.
And I mean, yeah, I thought this was a better movie in general. Um, it was. I didn't watch a lot of trailers or anything leading up to it. It was just kind of like I think I watched that first one. I was like, okay, yep, another Sonic is happening. I'm sure we'll go see it. And it wasn't until like we were in the movie last night where I was like, I don't remember most of what happened in the first movie. Like I remember Sonic and I remember Robotnik and I remember James Marsden and I remember that James Marsden had like a partner. Uh and I did not remember much beyond that. So like in this one when it's like when Tom and Maddie are going on like going to the sister's wedding or whatever. I was like, I don't even remember the sister, but clearly they set up enough stuff that like she was in that last movie. I did not remember her at all. I think she's a lot more fun in this movie,
Oh, she is, yeah.
and this movie significantly more so than last. Obviously, since they're adding in Tails and Knuckles, like kind of removes the human element, side story, B plot out of the film for a good chunk, so they can focus on the Sonic characters that people are interested in coming to see and stuff. And I think that serves the movie well, especially for pacing. Even if there are instances where it's like, oh, it feels like those characters are like, oh, their arc is done by the second act. Okay, I guess we're just gonna go full on into Sonic stuff in the third act, and not even gonna see those characters again or some of those characters again. Which like in another movie, I'd be like, that's just bad plotting and bad writing and stuff. And this one's like, that's fine. They know that that's not what people are here to see. That's more production value stuff of like, hey, let's make it so the movie's not entirely CG and costs a butt ton. But I think like all the animation felt really good and fun. I think it is very clearly to me a kids movie, and I don't think that's a bad thing. But it didn't, for me, it had some fun moments and stuff, but it leaned too heavily into kids in like and too far away from like the Pixar movie model that feels like it's all ages kind of thing. I know you and I were talking about that a little bit last night, where I think you fell more in the like you think it is good for all ages. I think if you didn't care about Sonic as an adult, you would get really nothing out of this movie, except maybe the joy of seeing your kids enjoying it. But that may be just me. Any other spoiler-free thoughts before we dive into full spoiler zone?
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. I thought it was great. I thought it was a great movie for all ages. It's also like a great love letter to the Sonic franchise. Where the first one I think was about way more of like the core principles of like what makes Sonic Sonic, and they capture that perfectly. They replicate that again and do that again with Tails and Knuckles. And funny enough, this time around with Robotnik. I just think that there is just such a great care for this franchise that is being put into it, but at the same time, they're just willing just to have fun. Like the goal of this movie is, hey, let's have fun. And I think that they do that in a really great way. And they also make some plot things work that I would never think that they would have for lack of a better term, the cojones to do. Like there's a couple of things that are just kind of like really wacky as far as Sonic's concerned, that are like staples to the franchise post Sonic 3, which is Sonic and Knuckles on the on not the SNES,
Genesis.
The Genesis. It's quite legitimately like just like a great way of capturing a lot of that, and also just like really just fun. It's fun. I had a blast. I loved watching it. I loved a lot of the humor. I loved just like the voice acting and acting combination, and also the fact that like James Marsden and Jim Carrey are literally operating with like inanimate objects, and they're bringing them to life in heartfelt, awesome scenes. Are like, it's just spectacular, especially Jim Carrey. Jim Carrey is the perfect person to play Robotnik, because like for what this is, which is a Jim Carrey pretending he's shooting a movie with inanimate objects, which is just like right up his alley. Totally perfect. Yeah, it's great. Just like go check out this movie, especially if you're a Sonic fan. I have no doubt if you're a Sonic fan, you've already probably seen it. But as somebody who is not a Sonic fan, who is of the opinion there probably really hasn't been any great Sonic game, despite the fact that I played a ton of them. Yeah, it is like just a great, fantastic time. So.
Yeah, I'll give it additional shout-outs. In addition to like obviously the Jim Carrey factor is obviously a huge component, and I appreciate. I've heard this from multiple people, but the idea that like Jim Carrey, it's very true. In a movie full of cartoon characters, Jim Carrey is somehow the most cartoon. Makes that a fun aspect of this film, and yeah, he's obviously kind of in peak Jim Carrey form, which hopefully works for you in that favor. If not, totally get that. Like it's almost that like that Mark Wahlberg kind of Uncharted vibe for me sometimes. But Jim Carrey, a lot of fun in this, and I think the first one, while not just a paycheck, I think like this one he was actually a little bit more even like interested in like playing with jokes like geared towards Sonic fans and geared toward the franchise as opposed to just Jim Carrey being wacky Jim Carrey. Ben Schwartz is still fun as Sonic. I appreciated Colleen O'Shaughnessy being brought in, voice actor for Tails, getting to play Tails in this movie. I think brings a lot of fun, energy, and heart to the role. And Idris Elba is just fun as Knuckles. We'll talk a little bit more about that, obviously, I think in spoiler stuff, but like just wonderful casting there. He brings a fun energy to kind of go up against all of the insanity around him. And then I do want to give a shout out to, again, she's a character I did not remember at all from the first movie, but Natasha Rothwell as Rachel, aka Tom's sister-in-law, has a lot of fun moments in her subplot. And then she's pretty much swept away by the middle of the film. But like she makes the most of her screen time for what she has in this film in a way that surprised me and was a lot of fun. So cool. Then let us hop straight on in. I'll go ahead and kind of throw the time codes out here for our spoiler-filled stuff. So last chance to duck away. Go watch the movie. Yeah, it's a fun movie. If you have kids, it'll be a fun movie for the kids. And if you're a Sonic fan, it'll be a fun movie. I would say I am probably as minimum as a Sonic fan can be that still enjoys and found a lot of fun references in this movie, because I pretty much played 1, 2 and Sonic and Knuckles on the Sega Genesis. and then have largely been removed from the the Sonic franchise since then, apart from hopping in and checking out Sonic Mania a few years back. And I thought that was a great Sonic game, but it still made me realize I don't like Sonic games. Um, I think this movie has like things that I caught, and then things where I was like, oh yeah, I guess those are references that I did not understand or get. But so if you're a Sonic fan, I think you will find a lot to love in this movie. If you're not a Sonic fan and don't have kids, this probably isn't a great movie, but maybe you'll have some fun with it. Who knows? But yeah, let us hop into spoiler-filled territory here. Cam, take us away. What do you want to jump off with spoiler-filled wise first?
The biggest thing that like leaps out to me, like spoiler wise, is man, oh man, did they do such an amazing job of dealing with the Echidna, Chaos Emerald, just absolute bonkers nonsense bullshit.
Okay.
Um, like
Is
the
that
Chaos Emeralds,
is
yeah,
that lore from the games? Since you're going to be the lore expert, even
yes.
though you're not a huge like, you're more Sonic fan than me, or you're more Sonic versed, I would say, than me. Um,
I'm definitely deeply Sonic versed as far as like somebody who's like not a fan of the series.
yeah,
There's definitely people who know more than me
yeah.
because they'll be able to like give it names to people and things, but like
Because yeah,
the idea of like
I remember the emeralds being like a thing in Sonic 2, maybe when they get introduced.
Sonic
Maybe
3
Sonic is
when
it Sonic and
mhm,
Knuckles? Like I remember them getting introduced, and if you collect them all, you become Super Sonic, and that was a great moment in this movie that we'll certainly talk about, I'm sure. I did not understand or know that they had any kind of lore and backstory. So
yep.
yeah, feel free to expound on that.
Yeah, so like they basically covered in the film. Yeah, but like the fact that they're like, yeah, the Echidna are this thing, it is part of this war. And then like they double down on Supersonic being Supersonic, which is great. Like it's just this awesome willingness to embrace kind of the wild weirdness of Sonic in a way that like is just fun and entertaining, and just they do such a great job of bringing a level of levity to what should be a very serious serious situation, which is what Sonic does best is when he is that. um Absolutely adored what we got out of that, and like also like the way that they are are the way that they allow um the original voice actor for Tails to come in and do the job again. And it's like, holy crap, this person just does not miss a beat. Tails was fantastic. Just the level of embracing, like everybody knows Sonic. Some people know Tails. Some people know Knuckles. Like if you're a fan of the series, then for sure you know both. But how do I put this? There is a way of doing things too much that is at the level of like, hey, Scott Pilgrim did a bunch of video game references. Let's also do a bunch of video game references, and there's no real restraint to it. Like they definitely could have gotten lost in pulling too much source material for what really just is a relatively simple story of Sonic has found a home and a family, but he doesn't have friends. He doesn't have squad mates. He doesn't have like bros. He doesn't have like his homies. And I love that the approach to that is Tails and Knuckles, which and then like it's perfect. They totally nail that aspect of these relationships, especially of like early Knuckles wanting to beat up Sonic. Um, like it's great. I absolutely loved it. I thought it was absolutely fantastic. I just cannot emphasize enough like how much fun I had with this, but at the same time, um, like the capability that they had to do and commit to the things that they were doing that made it worthwhile is just fantastic. So those are like kind of like really more of like my lightly spoilery comments about the film. So
Yeah, I think diving into kind of the like they teased the like Echidna versus Owl's kind of like battle in the first movie. I remember that be like, I remember Echidna coming out and fighting off Sonic's, mother figure in that one or whatever. And being like, oh, that's a cool setup for, a future introduction of Knuckles. I like it was I wonder if any of those were supposed to be Knuckles. And I appreciate that like in this, it says no, none of those were Knuckles because Knuckles was also a young kid back home, and he didn't go on that fight or anything like that. And there's a lot of like cute young Knuckles, to compare against the cute young Sonic that we had in the last movie.
Mm-hmm.
I appreciate that like when Tails shows up, like doesn't even bother introducing himself as Miles Prower, which obviously one of those great all-time kind of puns, but just immediately says, my friends call me Tails. All right, Tails, let's go. And then you do get the Miles Prower at the end. As like I appreciate that they found a way to put that in there. But yeah, like even that, it's like it's a very quick and easy explanation of like, hey, when you ran around that baseball diamond, which I could somehow see because I have super tech, you awoke something in the universe, and I've been kind of tracking you since. Wait, you even track me in the shower? That's a trick question. You don't take showers. You like bubble baths. That's like that's still creepy there, Tails, that you're you're watching that. But like I think they had a lot of just immediate like good fun banter. I love the like, do you trust me? No, I literally just met you. Was a solid beat, solid moment. So yeah, I really enjoy like all of the Sonic and Tails energy that we get kind of throughout a lot of the movie. And then I think obviously as soon as Knuckles gets introduced, it's very much
Yeah.
a like we're on a collision course for when Robotnik's going to betray him and when he's going to sign with Sonic. And I thought they handled that like surprisingly well for this kids movie that is, in many ways very simple story, simple plot kind of stuff. But like they continue to kind of like plant those seeds of him seeing how Robotnik treats other people and finding dishonor and disloyalty in those actions. And those are things that he can't stand beside. But yeah, the Idris Elba, we talked about this a little bit last night, just like pretty much just being Drax from Guardians of the Galaxy, but that works perfectly for this character and for like an antagonistic energy to Sonic, I think works really, really well. It was a lot of fun. And yeah, just pretty much anytime he is throwing out a very dry, like one liner or something, lots of fun to be had in that performance. He achieves that sexy energy that everybody kind of joked about when he got cast as Knuckles. Yeah,
He brings the himbo energy to Knuckles in a way that is very like hard to believe that he could do with just doing vocal work, but he does a great job.
mm-hmm.
And Knuckles is just he's so ready for Robotnik's betrayal up until it actually happens.
Yeah. Then
Like,
he's suddenly surprised. Yeah.
yeah, it's when he's like on the cliff and he's like hanging off of it, and then he's like, "Oh, you're robots. You're gonna like, is this your betrayal?" And it's like, "Oh, these are stairs."
Oh yeah. Oh, they are stairs. Okay. Yes. Yeah. That was
just
yeah. That was
yeah,
that was probably like a top moment of his delivery, just like that sudden realization.
just those moments with Knuckles were just like unparalleled hilarious. I love it.
Yeah, or when he like one of my favorite moments of his that is also ties in as a fun little Easter egg is you get this holograph like the Robotnik's hologram saying like, okay, Sonic is in Siberia or wherever he is.
Mm-hmm.
And you see like little hologram Sonic there, 3D Sonic, who's doing like the foot tapping idle animation from the original Sonic game, which is just like a lovely little beat. But you only see it for a split second as Knuckles smashes it and says, "There, I have destroyed the magical tiny Sonic," or whatever. Now let's move on. And it's just
It's
like
so great.
yeah, it's pure Drax energy, which works perfectly in this context, and I think is a lot of fun. I want to talk about the subplot in Hawaii, and just how like how weird it is that like it's set up. We continually come back to it, and then like the collision of like story beats in Hawaii there, and then just completely like the left turn I did not see coming. I don't know if you saw it coming at all.
No.
But
No,
yeah.
how could you see that coming? How could you see that coming?
Exactly. Yeah. So obviously,
it's so crazy. Also, just massive shout out to the actress who plays the sister, Tom's sister-in-law, where she is just, first off, she was already funny in the first one because it's just like Tom is just like, oh, your sister hates me, and it's like, oh, is she really hate him? It's like, no, she really hates him.
Yeah.
And she's like, and this one, she's like, let's bury the hatchet. And he's like, oh my gosh, I'd love that. And then she gets up to him, hugs him, and says, if you do anything to ruin my wedding, I will kill you.
Yeah.
It's like, okay.
Yeah.
I'm like, immediately that tells me, oh, something's going to happen that ruins her wedding, for sure.
Of course, yeah.
But like, yeah. But the thing that ruins her wedding was like, it's like, oh, okay, cool. And then the twist happens after that. And you're like, wait, what?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I loved how like excited you got. Like, this is one of those things I feel like I saw coming when they're like, okay, and here's your one ring for the, like, bring this back. I was like, oh, that's gonna get swapped out for one of the wedding rings or something, like that's gonna happen.
When he did,
and then he does the little like magic trick thing. I'm like, oh, well, that's clearly where the switcheroo happened. And so yeah, I appreciate like you reacting in the moment to that, like, of like realizing what was coming, and then just like the joy of hearing you like when every beat of that plays out, like when he goes to throw the ring the first time and nothing happens, he's like, just hearing that from you, I was like, yes, thank you, Cameron. This is a fun reaction.
That was also like a relief of like anxiety, because like I had just such terrible so I used to, full disclosure, not really disclosure, just like fun information. My family ran a reception center for like many, many years during when I was like a kid. From like age 7 to 12. A lot of my Saturday nights were reserved for going in and helping out. And I was basically called the cake boy, because my job was to make sure that when the cakes were getting rolled out, like we did this thing where we like, oh, they cut the cake. Okay, everybody go get some cake. In that time, till the end of, almost the end of the night, I was responsible for making sure there was enough cake of every like possible flavor out on the table in slices that people could have. So my job was just to go back to the kitchen, back to table, like just going back and forth. And sometimes I had to go around to tables to talk to people about, like, because it was supposed to be like, oh, okay, this table wants this many pieces of this, this, and this. And I had to do that from like the time I was 7. And so I have crazy anxiety around weddings.
I was gonna say, this is a long tangent to get to like you have wedding PTSD.
I do. Whenever I go to like a wedding reception, I never know what to do because I feel like I should be working it. I'm always looking at like, okay, do they have enough hors d'oeuvre? Like when I was not a best man, but a groomsman at my little brother's wedding, I literally like was used by them to make sure like they got something to eat and they got something to drink, and that they were just constantly getting like, enough water to make sure, because they were up in a line for forever. Because they had so many family members, like so many family people were coming through. So I enjoyed doing that way more than I enjoyed just like being at a wedding reception. It's just because I have like weird wedding PTSD because I've seen things go wrong. And it's always so like cringy and embarrassing. First off, never, ever, ever ask someone to marry you at somebody else's wedding. Don't do it. It's legitimately the most awkward, weird, cringy, like anxiety, like everybody gets weirded out by it. Don't ever do it.
All right. We probably don't need to dive down all of your list of things to not do at a wedding. We can probably get back to the movie at this point.
Yeah, let's get back to the movie. Thank you.
Yes, it was fun to hear your relief in like the beats playing out as you were expecting them to play out.
When it was just like the ring, like the phone going off, and then like I'm like, I need the ring, and it was like, and then
shout out to the Sonic theme as the ringtone, by the way.
Yep, I was just like I was just so dreading it. I was like, oh, I hate these moments because it's just like because they happen in real life all the time. People don't know that, and it's just like But then then he finally gets the ring, and then all of a sudden he throws the ring in. It's like, yes, that was fine.
Yeah,
great beat.
a great like,
Um,
and that is where we get kind of the merging of the storylines. Sonic and Tails have gone on this adventure in Siberia that leads to a dance-off competition with some angry Russians
I think
because
that's the weirdest part
sure.
of the movie.
Yep.
Funny enough, that's the weirdest part of the movie.
Yeah.
Hands down, the weirdest part of the movie is a real life person having a dance off competition with a CGI of Sonic,
Yeah.
and it's just like just weird.
To a Bruno Mars song. And yeah, the like as they're escaping, fun little snowboard segment of Sonic escaping. As a fun
Which is a
beat.
throwback to a actual Easter egg to an old Sonic level.
Mm-hmm.
There's a Sonic snowboarding level, and I think Sonic 2 or Sonic 3, I can't remember what, but yeah.
Yeah. And then and so like that's where our stories collide. Is Tom throws out the ring, it like opens a portal to there. They come flooding in with a whole bunch of snow, ruin the wedding. But then like the twist that like on top of that is that the groom to be was an undercover agent for Gun, which I did not catch in the moment, is a Sonic organization reference. Kind of, I just thought it was like, that's a dumb stupid name for an organization, but also
Both are
something
true.
fully Americanized, so I would totally understand it. But yeah, then like finding out after the fact, it's like, oh no, that's actually from Sonic games. I was like, okay, well that's also stupid. But like the fact that Olive Garden guy from like the last movie, who I would not have remembered at all except for the Olive Garden terrible product placement from the last movie, comes back in is running a whole sting operation on the sister just to get Sonic, and ends up basically getting more than they bargained for, because they've also got this Tails alien that has now also come. I was just like, okay, well that definitely took a turn I was not anticipating. It made all of like the cutaways to that, I think, a little bit more like worthwhile and fun, especially because as you kind of touched on, like we're seeing the groom with all of his groomsmen being like super beefy, guy, and it makes more sense because they were all undercover agents and stuff like that. Yeah, lots of fun also, in that little twist.
Also, when he calls them his squad,
yeah, definitely pays off there.
Yeah, that I just wrote that one, just clicked for me just now.
Yeah,
the idea that like he's like, oh, they're not just my friends, they're my squad, and it's like, oh, they really are his squad. Like they're his squad mates in Gun.
Yeah,
which it's always been a bad acronym. It's always been dumb, and it's just like I just love that everybody's reaction to it is Gun.
Gun, really? Yeah.
Really? And he goes, that's right, Gun.
Yeah,
it's like that's so
the one guy dumb enough to take pride in that, whereas everybody else is like, that's really stupid.
Because he's also the one guy who was dumb enough to trust Robotnik.
Yeah,
like it works. It totally works. And then we get to show off. They've been doing this entire time, where they've been like kind of hinting that Tails is like a really brilliant inventor. And like we get to showcase like he's also like an incredible pilot, like all sorts of stuff that we get to see that shows off Tails. Like Tails oftentimes is just such an afterthought whenever anybody brings up Sonic the Hedgehog. But as somebody who didn't own the Genesis and then was often relegated to player number 2, Tails getting some shine made me feel good.
There you go.
Because after all the hours that I spent being Tails, and not being Sonic in Sonic 2, playing it with my next door neighbor, Josh Talbert, shout out. It was a blast to like also just to get to see like this lore of the character fleshed out, because yes, in the extended lore of like later Sonic games, they do put an emphasis on the fact that like Tails really is the brains of the Sonic the Hedgehog, like not organization, but like group, I guess. Like he's the smart guy.
Yeah, I appreciate by the end of the movie they're like, Sonic has the speed, Tails has the brains, Knuckles has the brawn. Like that makes for a good trio, and they have complementary skills. Perfect. That's all we need. Yep.
But the fact that they then get to emphasize that in scenes that Tails isn't in, where you get Tom's wife and his sister-in-law with Tails' backpack, and it's full of weapons and tools. And there's an amazing scene where you're like, wait, who just saved his wife's name? Rachel. I don't want to say she's Rachel. Automatically.
Rachel is the sister-in-law. Maddie is the wife.
Maddie, there we go. Okay. I'm like, one of them is named Rachel, but I can't help but feel like I'm just doing a Rachel. Like the Rachel memory is coming back for some reason. I don't know why. I never trust it whenever the name Rachel pops up because my niece is named Rachel. And also, the whole Dark Knight situation. So it's like, am I correctly remembering the name Rachel? Or am I just having like a weird like
or are you just putting the Dark Knight over top of Sonic 2? Which admittedly, yeah, there is that opening kind of intro sequence where Sonic is trying to be Batman.
I wish I could tell you that it's in relation to that. It's not.
No,
This happens way too often in way too many franchises where it's like there is a character named Rachel and all I can think about is Rachel.
Mm-hmm. Same way that Martha has been ruined for any movie ever.
That's true.
Yep.
But yeah, like
man, how bad would it have been if Maddie's name was actually Martha? Martha and Rachel. That would have been terrible for you.
Yeah, that would have been awful. Yeah, so Maddie and Rachel, like Maddie gets in trouble where she's cornered by a bunch of agents, and you're like, and then she's saved, and you're like, whoa, who possibly could have saved her? And it turns out it was just Rachel, and she's holding one of Tails' like little like tools, and she goes, I did not know that it would do that.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, yes.
Yeah.
So good.
Or like the introduction, like the first gadget they throw out, because yeah, they just take the backpack. They don't know what any of these things are gonna do. They throw it out there and it shoots the guy up in the air, and they're like, "Is he gonna come back down? I hope he comes back down." They're like, "Yeah, figure that out later." And then he ends up landing down and on one of the clay cake tables or whatever. Yeah,
and tells them, he goes, "We've been attacked."
Yeah,
that's great. And then that also leads up to the moment of like the Barracuda moment, which is just like, anytime you need a woman to be badass, you just play Barracuda behind whatever she's doing,
mm-hmm.
and you nailed it. And she e-brakes, steps out like a badass, and she has like this little gun and like blows up the cake with it. Oh my god, it's so good. Like, and that is like a Kickstarter for her fake fiance to be like, I need to tell this woman that I actually have feelings for her.
Yeah.
And like I actually do love her.
He jumps in front of the taser bolt to take the bullet for her, kind of thing. Yeah, I mean, like, all that is like incredibly tropey, and it is that the like, I broke the first rule of being undercover, never fall in love. Like, even that, I'm like, I'm sure that has been a line in a dozen other movies. But it was fun. But yeah, then their arc is pretty much done. They are not seen again the rest of the movie.
Hey, and it works.
Yeah, it was fine.
Oh, dude, when Rachel freaks out about everybody being a secret agent.
Yeah.
And she's like, is the priest a secret agent? And he goes like, and opens his Bible, and there's a gun in it.
Yeah.
And which is double punny, because right after that we find out the acronym of the organization's gun.
Yeah.
But then she looks at her daughter and she goes, "Is my daughter a secret?"
Not daughter, like her cousin or whatever. JoJo, yeah.
JoJo.
Like the niece or cousin. Yeah, I guess cousin would have been. But yeah, it's like, is she?
No, JoJo is Rachel's daughter.
Is she? I don't remember that.
Yeah, because JoJo was living with Rachel in San Francisco.
Was she? Oh, okay. I don't remember any of that. Was that from the first movie?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Yeah. Okay. Didn't remember any of that. Didn't.
Yeah.
So like a daughter from a previous marriage then?
I mean, it doesn't have to be marriage, but
I mean, sure. Yeah, I guess. Fair.
Prior relationship. Yes.
Okay. Did not remember that at all. but yes, the is JoJo is okay. Well, that and then adds an extra bit of oomph. But yeah, that extra bit of oomph completely lost on me. But yes,
that's why I laughed
her for
so
being
hard.
a secret agent.
That's why I laughed, because I'm like, oh, she's even asking for her daughter. Like, she's really freaked out by it. It's just great. It's just great. The entire Hawaii sequences are just like, the prior stuff never takes up too much time to take away. It's just a perfect like little like separation for like the next Sonic scene that needs a break between the two Sonic scenes for whatever reason. A like short and sweet Hawaii bit, and then they're back to it.
Mm-hmm.
I never felt like any of the Hawaii and human stuff took too long, and ultimately it was like super rewarding, because like at the end, like, Tom and Maddie hop in, like commandeer a truck and go and get Sonic and like rescue him at one point, and then like are willing to die with him.
Yeah.
And it's just like, holy crap. And it's like, we don't leave
they're a little family unit.
Yep, they are. And I love that they've just doubled down on yes, this is a family.
Mm-hmm.
And Mark doesn't get upset that Sonic told him he's not his dad. You're supposed to be my friend, not
Tom.
my dad.
Tom.
Tom?
Yeah.
What did I say?
You said Mark.
Mark, sorry. Weird, because I've been saying Tom this entire time.
Yeah.
Sorry about that. Yeah, but he tells Tom at the beginning, like, you're supposed to be my friend, not my dad. And it's like, okay, like we do still have like some like kind of like we haven't really defined the familial relationship here. And but by the end we do have that cemented. He does call Tom dad. And it's great because I feel like Maddie and Tom are at a point in like they've been married for a while, etc. And so I can't help but feel like they've tried to have kids and then found out they couldn't. Like that's just the impression that I get from it. Just conjecture from like they have a family home but they don't have any kids.
I mean, yeah, that's. I don't know if they have a family. They have an attic that Sonic lives in. So they've made it work.
Yeah.
But yeah, if you want to put that extra little bit of backstory, I'm not going to get like I don't necessarily know that the movie supports that or gives you that, but do you. But
there's no way that these two super hot people have not tried to have a like beautiful child. There's no way.
Okay.
There's no way.
I mean, we don't need to go down that rabbit hole of
look at these
reasons why they wouldn't necessarily need to or want to or whatever. But sure.
Although, hey, here's another thing. Maybe they've decided that they don't want kids. That's also a possibility.
There you go.
But then it's weird that you would adopt a teenage alien.
Yeah.
Just saying.
Well, yeah, circumstances changed.
Yeah, I guess circumstances change.
But I will also,
you don't have to raise them. So
an element that I really appreciate about the Tom and Maddie-ness of the movie is that they're like a version of this movie could exist where they are incompetent and Sonic is constantly pulling things over on them, but like he never does. Like he is snuck out to be Dark Justice. Tom goes up to the attic to talk to him and like completely sees through the Ferris Bueller's Day Off bit, which falls apart in front of him and stuff as well. Calls him out on it. And then I also love when Sonic is, having his like fun day at the at the house, and like everything's going nuts. And then he gets the call from Donut Lord, and Donut Lord like and Tom's like, how's everything going? And Sonic says everything to be like, no, everything's perfectly fine. There's absolutely no. And he's like, well, I wasn't worried, but everything you have said has just made me think that I should be worried. So what's going on? You know what? It's fine. I'm sure that whatever you're doing, you can undo. By Saturday or whatever before we get home. Like I appreciate that. Like. There's a sense of trust, but also like you're not sneaking this one past me. I know something's up, but like I trust you that you're not going to get out of hand or that you can't, whatever you're doing, you can't undo. I trust that.
I love how Sonic immediately like just goes, of course. He goes, yeah, and he goes, oh wait, I wasn't supposed to confirm that I could like. It's just great. It's the relationships established in the first film are carried over so brilliantly and so well done, but at the same time, don't take the like main set. They take enough room and have enough room to breathe, but they don't suffocate anything else. Like they don't take up more room than they need for, which is great because you do need to establish like. I love the moment on the like in the Alps when Sonic and Knuckles have like this really deep bonding moment where they're like they realize like they were both. Like the event that happened orphaned both of them. And so it's not like well, your side was bad or your side was bad. It's not like a rivalry or a problem between these two. Like, it's not a tribal issue. It's hey, we recognize we both have been deeply hurt by the events of that day. And that we were robbed of our parent. Regardless of like the circumstances. And like nobody blames anybody for it. It's just an acceptance that like, that was a tragic moment for both. And I love that because Sonic could have easily like been angry or told Knuckles off or like there's so many different things that could have happened there. But instead there was a moment of like really deep empathy and care. And it's like that's one of the things I'm deeply loving about this Sonic. Ben Schwartz's Sonic is just such a deeply empathetic character versus kind of the I'm a cool guy, I'm nonchalant, I don't really care about feelings, honk honk your nose, gotta go fast. Kind of like clownish version of Sonic that we've gotten in other places. And so it's just such a great I'm referring to, like, by the way, the animated television shows. Both both the one that was done in the West as well as Sonic X, the anime. I watched all of, like, I don't know why. Well, I do know why. Sonic, when it's not a video game, is always like really fun and great,
Okay.
but as a video game, it usually sucks. But yeah, it's like it's just great, like to see like kind of like this like really deep empathetic figure in Sonic, which as like a kids film, you want your kids' heroes to be empathetic and caring
Mm-hmm.
because that's something that you want to inspire your children. And so it's great to see that from that. And then Tails thinks that he's helping Sonic, and Knuckles thinks, "Oh, betrayal," which is so funny because it's like
Yeah.
because he's working with Robotnik, so that's why it's funny. Because you're just waiting for Robotnik to betray Tails
Yeah.
or betray
Knuckles.
Knuckles.
Yep.
And gosh, no. And then like, but does Sonic blame Tails? Does he ever get angry at him for it? No. Like once again, just like totally understanding. And also right afterwards, Tails gets knocked out pretty hard, and then they almost die in an avalanche. So priorities.
Yeah. You gotta do what you gotta do. Yeah, and I think we can kind of probably jump to the third act. Well, there's some fun other stuff intermixed in there of Robotnik coming back from his year plus away or however long it's been away in isolation, where he's been trying to make mushroom coffee.
And then when he gets back to Earth, he tastes the latte for the first time. He goes, "Could use some mushroom," and it's like, oh my gosh, yes.
Yeah,
because dude, his sidekick assistant guy is just always great.
Mm-hmm.
Loved him in the first film. Love that they brought him back for this. Love that he has been like hiding out in Green Hills, doing this the entire time,
working at a mean bean.
Yeah,
is a need nod to what the mean bean something like one of the like basically the Sonic Tetris game or whatever it was.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, he's a lot of fun. Lee Majdoub, Majdoub, as Stone, which I didn't remember his name at all. So when Robotnik is introducing the boulder that he named Stone, or the rock that he named Stone, I just thought it was a funny play on words in that regard. And then when it's like, oh no, that guy was named Stone. Oh, that's who he named him after. Blah, blah. Okay, fun, cute.
Which is fun because it's like it shows Robotnik does have a side of him that, like, on some level, does care about another person.
Yeah,
which is great because it humanizes him. But also shout out to the fact that like they like how like the question like are they going to call him Dr. Robotnik or Dr. Eggman? And it's like I love that Eggman is the like Sonic calls him Eggman to make fun of him.
Yeah.
And I love that is like a continued aspect of honoring the original name from the Japanese version, but at the same time being like Robotnik's a better name.
Yeah.
And it's great. I love that aspect of it, but also I'm just like I love the just the way that Robotnik gets out of the planet by like shooting off a pulse to attract somebody else to come get him, and then outright just like wrecking these dudes with those pre-set up traps to be like, oh yeah, that's right. We might remember him as being a goofy guy who got tricked by Sonic, but this dude is smart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. I just wanted to give a nod to or shout out to the little like fat Robotnik as Stone is going through the like let's find a new look for him to match his wild mustache now. Like we see like cowboy Robotnik, and then we see like the classic fat Robotnik suit. It's a fun little nod to that. And then yeah, like ultimately, obviously like Robotnik and Knuckles find the way to the Chaos Emerald, and there's a lot of like they're rushing through, and it's a whole bunch of like Indiana Jones style traps and stuff like that they're setting off or threatening to set off. And I love that like Sonic just speeds through all that and just kind of like
Hmm.
basically misses or like speeds through ahead of all that stuff. Also, Sonic's aversion to water being established in the boat, and then like continuing on here. I like when
Hmm.
that was being set up, I didn't even think about the underwater levels of Sonic, but you get the beautiful payoff when Knuckles is like trapped there underwater and Sonic like has to dive down, go in, get him, and fully sucks air from an air bubble just like in the game to extend his time underwater.
Yep.
Wonderful beats there. um yeah, we get the obviously the Robotnik betrayal that sets up Knuckles siding, like basically Knuckles and Sonic saving each other's lives makes them BFFs now. And then Tails comes flying in on the Tails plane, that biplane,
The biplane that he took. That.
iconic red biplane that was flying the like
Hmm.
the message from the wedding. That was a lovely little like setup for why there's suddenly a biplane there.
It's great. I love it. It's so, once again, it just like totally establishes a bunch of like awesome Easter egg stuff, but at the same time, just like makes so much sense in the plot of the film and like how it's introduced and what they do to pay it off.
Yeah.
Just like, I think at the end of the day, the best part about this film is just the payoff.
Hmm.
The way that it just pays everything off
Yeah.
is just.
And then the third act, of course, is the big mecha Robotnik
So cool.
like thing that he uses the power of the Chaos Emerald to create. And you get a great little Easter egg in there of the mustache stamper or whatever,
Smash.
yeah,
The crusher.
stash smasher, um
Stash Smasher, yeah.
that Agent Stone pulls out the manual. It is a very like iconic Sega
Like
Genesis
yeah.
style instruction booklet. Lovely little nod there. And then yeah, that like it was around this time where I was like, oh, we're gonna like, they set up that crystal has like the 7 emeralds inside of it. And so like I had this moment where I was like, oh, are they gonna actually give us Supersonic in this? And I was gonna ask this earlier. Do you know if Supersonic precedes Dragon Ball Z, or if Dragon Ball Z, like, do you know which inspired which? Because it definitely feels like one of them inspired the other somehow. Um,
I
or
have a feeling it's Dragon Ball Z that came first. Let me real quick. I can do
yeah,
a quick bit of research here.
because I mean,
So
it's so like, obviously I knew it from Sonic first, but then like just even though I've never really watched Dragon Ball Z, I know Super Saiyan, and like when you get all the Dragon Balls together, you
yeah,
turn into like Golden Goku kind of thing. So
it was definitely Super Saiyan was first.
uh-huh.
The Super Saiyan form debuted first March 19th, 1991, within chapter 317 of the Dragon Ball manga.
Okay.
So, and then let me just double checking because I'm pretty sure Supersonic.
Yeah, Supersonic would have been a couple years after that, probably like 92, 93 or something like that. But it's almost definitely a direct reference to going Super Saiyan. It's Supersonic after all, and it's the same, like, I'm going to turn into a invulnerable magic golden like version of myself. But we get that as like a great kind of Sonic getting those ultimate powers here. And that's, I do appreciate the tactic that they use to like get the emerald out of Robotnik, of Sonic's going to distract him. Tails and Knuckles are going to come kind of sneaking in around the back, and then even Tails is going to be an additional diversion on top of that, so that Knuckles can use his brute force. Have I bought enough time for you to confirm when Supersonic existed?
In just a single moment, please. Sorry.
Okay.
Let's see here. Sonic the Hedgehog 2 came out in 1992.
Okay. So yeah, so Super Saiyan was like a year before.
Mhm.
So yeah,
Like they directly inspired it, which
Yeah.
is like, because all of a sudden, like, that was such a massive thing, especially in Japan.
mhm.
So I have no doubt that it inspired that, because it inspired a lot of things
Yeah.
in regards to like a super form.
Yeah.
But it's really like the gold aspect of it is just like real, like comes off really that way. which in turn actually has like a really cool motif to the idea of like the idea that gods are so magnificent to behold that like you'll light on fire if you look at them or something. So the idea it's like this is like God Sonic is cool. I love it. Like
Yeah.
I love Supersonic as like a concept, an idea that it's like Robotnik gets the emerald and he turns into this like cool lightning god version of Robotnik, and Jim Carrey just does it so masterfully.
Mm-hmm.
Where he I love that he can smell intelligence. Like he smells intelligence, and it's just like I expect him to be like a vampire or something to like eat people's intelligence or something. The way he was talking about it, but he was just being weird.
Yeah,
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it.
But yeah, so that wraps up Supersonic before he loses his form, summons the ultimate chili dog, and then summons another one to fly right into Knuckles' face as Knuckles is saying, "Don't touch him. He is no longer the Sonic you knew." Okay, never mind. He's exactly the Sonic you knew. Like another great Knuckles beat. And then yeah, that's the
Dude,
movie.
we have to mention it. So Tails has the ability to make holograms of himself.
Yeah.
Obviously, he's the smart person. But then when Knuckles confronts Robotnik after Tails' holograms have been taken out, he goes, "Ah, Robotnik, I too am a hologram." And you're like, "Oh my god."
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like, just Knuckles has a lot of good one-liners in this one.
He does. He's fantastic. When he learns how to shake hands, and it turns out to be like a very dangerous thing.
Mm-hmm. He breaks
because he literally like will, like,
breaks
just, like,
everybody's hands. And then yeah, we get the closing beat there of the baseball, which is a nice tie-in back to the first, where Sonic was basically having to play by himself, but now he's got half of a team out there to play with him. Knuckles has some fun there. Great lines in that regard because he doesn't understand the game, but he ends up, like fist bump of power or whatever it is, and
power bump. He goes
power. Bump.
He like tosses the bat at the last second. He goes power bump and punches the ball, and you're like, yes.
Yeah. And then I will throw it to you for the mid credits tease for the future of Sonic to go nuts about that.
Before I do, I love that, like, it's like, what would Sonic do with the Master Emerald now that he just has it lying around? It's like it just hangs out in the cooler, with the water and drinks. Like, it's just around. I'm like, love it, perfect, like iconic way of Sonic handling it. Love it.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Knuckles does canically love grapes, and they throw that in at the end.
Yeah. Does ice cream have grapes? I mean, not usually.
But I guess. And then he goes, "Sonic, come! I've been told that they have sprinkles."
Mm-hmm.
It's like love. Idris Elba is just perfect for it. But then the mid-credit scene is like, I have to put this out there. Like, I am not the biggest fan of the character they introduced, mainly because he came out and like, if you like, I have no doubt that there was already like Sonic OC stuff out there, but man, did this character like kickstart it, because they introduced Shadow the Hedgehog in like a very Shadow the Hedgehog like scene.
What is OC? Sonic OC?
Original characters.
Oh, got it. Okay.
There is a rabbit hole that we do not have.
That genre of Sonic art. Got it.
Yep. Mm-hmm. When fan art went too far. But yeah, like Sonic, like, so Shadow the Hedgehog is teased for the next film, which is gonna be probably good, but like I'm always hesitant with Shadow because I told you, because you couldn't remember if Shadow was.
Yeah, I as we were talking about it, I thought Shadow was the robot Sonic, and you were like, no, he's a live living hedgehog. I was like, okay, yeah, because like Shadow the Hedgehog would have come out in one of the games beyond my scope of playing Sonic.
Yeah, and that is kind of like where my knowledge starts to end, is in the Dreamcast like era of Sonic. It's just, man, like Shadow. Here's the thing: people love Shadow the Hedgehog, but I am almost 100% convinced that the people who love Shadow the Hedgehog love him because he came out at a time when dark, edgy anti-heroes were becoming much more the rage. And like, here's the thing:
He came out
Shadow
when these people were 13 years old, is what you're saying.
Exactly. And I didn't get to, like, Shadow didn't enter my life until much later when I was an older teenager and I realized that those things suck. Generally. But like, if you're like, oh, but is he really that edgy? They literally made a Shadow the Hedgehog game, and the defining feature of that game is that they gave him a gun.
All right.
He is the hedgehog who has the gun.
He's the Vincent Valentine of the Sonic verse.
That's actually a great way to put it. Yeah.
Yep.
But also, like, this is also where you find out that your friends have like there are people out there that you know where like the way that they get excited about Shadow is kind of weird in the way that they're getting excited about Shadow. And that's when you have to.
I appreciate that you like you pivoted from sexually to kind of weird. Is that what you're going for? The way that people get excited about Sonic is sexually, or Shadow is sexually?
Yeah.
Yeah. You got those horny Chloe nailers out there on the internet. Yeah, nothing wrong with that.
Yeah,
but
nothing wrong with that. Like, no kink shaming here, and that's
you're
why
not
I said
kink shaming them,
weird.
but you're kind of shaming them of.
It's not that.
You
It's
find
like
that this is how your friends feel about that character. It's weird.
It's weird, but at the same time, it's like, this is a moment where you have to make that defines the kind of person you're going to be. Are you going to be somebody who finds out these things about your friends and you just accept and love them for it? Or do you like get weird about it and not want to be friends with them anymore? Because when I was a teenager and I found out these things, I made the latter decisions. And I don't know if those were the great decisions at the time, but that's what I was mature enough to deal with at the time, which was not dealing with it at all.
And now that you're an adult, you realize that's not hurting anybody.
Yep,
you do you. You do you, internet friends. You guys are weird, but you do you.
These are fictional characters. They're not actual animals. It's a thing. Like, it's fine if it's a thing. Totally fine. But you just had to accept that about your friends.
There you go.
Hey, my friends accept me for all the weirdness that I am. I can accept them for the weird things about them.
Huzzah. Any final thoughts? Anything we missed? Any other beats you want to go over before we wrap up?
Yeah, surprisingly, not surprisingly, but like great. The final thing I want to say is the great theme of the film, which is heroes don't go out there to save the day. They go out there to protect other people. Being a hero means taking responsibility for other people. That aspect of things is, I love that, because also that is like a tie-in to what was Tom's like entire like journey in the last film, which was cool and great. It's like, okay, he gets to pass that on now in this film to Sonic. But also the idea that like in your life you need people around you who aren't just your family. You need like something that said about the difference between like the cult, like why do teenagers all of a sudden stop looking for approval from their parents and start looking to approval from their peers? It's an anthropological kind of sociological paradigm that happens in that transition. And it's an incredibly important and critical transition that needs to happen to kind of like enter into society as an adult. And so it's interesting that they use that here and introduce that here as a way of saying Sonic is a teenager, and Sonic needing these bonds outside of his family unit is important. And I like that they established that. Like, Knuckles and Tails aren't getting adopted into the Wachowski family. Kind of they are, but like the defining thing here is that Sonic is at his core at this point, at the end of Sonic 2, a Wachowski for all intents and purposes. And I like that there is that distinction between like when Tom sees Rachel's fiance with his legitimate squad, like legitimate as in they're actual federal agents in a squad. When he sees him and he says, I want that for Sonic. And it's like, that's first off, that's such a great dad moment for him. And the second thing is it totally establishes like this is what needs to happen for Sonic to grow as a person. And then we see that happen. And it's done in such a way that is just awesome, because we get Tails and Knuckles and they decide to become this new order of protectors of the Master Emerald, which means just like, keep it in the cooler, keep an eye on it. Like, Hopefully Robotnik doesn't show up and take it. Although, like, we don't know where Robotnik is.
Yeah,
So cool.
I think that's conveniently setting it up, especially in as Jim Carrey has been doing in the press circuit, that he like is kind of ready to retire or maybe just stop doing stuff. It's like, okay, well, if he doesn't come back, they've set up this path for Shadow, so cool. They're good on that front, and they can start diving down that other deeper rabbit hole or whatever. But like I think this is an interesting, like the first movie peppered in a little bit of Sonic stuff in there, but it was much more like this is a kids family movie kind of thing. This one throws a lot more Sonic stuff in there and still has the family elements, but I think it's also setting it up for like the third one could be even more Sonic diehard stuff, and people go along with it because they've been along this ride for these other two. And I think in doing that, like, oh, it'd be interesting if Jim Carrey isn't in that one, because I think he brings such an energy to these movies. What would that look like if he's not in the next one? Or and what does it look like if he is? And Shadow is also there. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see where they go from here for Sonic 3. Cool. Then I think we will go ahead and wrap it up there. Thank you for joining me to discuss Sonic the Hedgehog 2 here, Cam. It was fun seeing it with you last night. Good fun movie. Good fun times, even as a very minimal Sonic fan myself. Yeah.
I think that's probably the best endorsement we can give this film, is that you are not that big of a Sonic fan, and
I still had fun.
Like, yeah, and you still had fun. I like Sonic more than you, but even then, I'm not the biggest Sonic fan. But I still had like it's funny. These films have made me much more of a Sonic fan than any of the games have.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
and I think that is a testament to how good they are.
I saw that tweet from Andy making the rounds the other day of like, it's a shame we've had two good Sonic movies. Maybe one day we'll get a game, worthy of that quality or something. I will also shout out, while we've been recording, reports came out that not only did Sonic win the box office this weekend, but it's also now the highest grossing first weekend for a video game movie ever. So yeah, shout out to Sonic 2 doing what Nintendo don't all these years later. Yeah. We will go ahead and wrap it up there. Thank you for joining me. Let's go around to our metaphorical table with any plugs. You can follow Cameron at Rev Cabot. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
I do. I want to give a shout out to an old friend of ours who's been doing some really great, successful stuff over on YouTube. I want to give a shout out to our good buddy Joe Ruffles.
Okay.
Over on YouTube. He's been finding a lot of success out there by being an anime YouTuber. He's recently hired Christian to be a full-time staff member. Want to give Christian some love as well. But yeah, they have been putting out a lot of like good reaction stuff. He runs this podcast, Nani no Anime Podcast. It is a good time. It's good fun stuff. I've been watching their reactions to an anime called 86. That has been pretty stellar. If you haven't checked it out, check that out. But yeah, just want to give kind of like expanding the network of not influence, but like people we know, and give a shout out to them. So let people know, like, hey, if you haven't checked it out, go check those people out. But yeah.
Yeah, no, shout out to Joe. I remember, obviously met him at PAX's and stuff many years ago. Roomed with him a few times in those days where I had like 8 to 11 roommates to cut down on costs and stuff. Frank lived with him for a while when Frank moved out to Austin. And like, I remember seeing him blow up on the Mixer side of things before Mixer got shut down. Even before that happened, he ended up kind of moving over to Twitch. But then, yeah, he really started shooting through the roof with all his anime reacts and stuff. Also, shout out to freaking Carl Jacobs.
Oh yeah,
being on the Kids' Choice Awards stage. This
once again, yeah.
Seeing that when we got out of the movie in my timeline, and just being like, I remember eating Portillo's with him at like PSX a few years ago. like talking Sonic. I think we talked Sonic Forces with him or something at that Portillo's. I was like him blessing Chloe. I remember like just a group of us chatting there, and just being like, what a wild life he is leading
Yep.
nowadays.
He
Yeah, shout
when
out to
if anybody if anybody ever asked me who's the most popular, like the most famous person who follows you, and it's like, for me, it's not Greg Miller, it's not anybody, it's like, it's Carl Jacobs.
yeah. It was like for a while there, it was like Cisco, and then yeah, now it's easily Carl. When I see him trending on a semi-regular basis on Twitter, it's like just seeing Carl as the tweet or whatever, like as the trend, and it'll be like Carl Jacobs did this thing on Twitch or whatever. It's just like, what a weird life you lead now, Carl. Shout out to you, buddy.
So wild. I DM him sometimes and just like, hey man, you did this. That's awesome. Congratulations.
Yeah.
Like, just milestones, just like putting that out there for him to remind him, like, yeah, remember how far you've come.
Yeah.
He's and honestly, like, could not be happening to to a nicer person, to a sweeter guy. We're fine until we find out years later that he had skeleton. I'm joking.
Yeah.
I know, but no, he's a great guy. Yeah, like it's great. I think that it is, like, especially shout outs is great, such a great time for us to give a shout out to people that we care about, and yeah, and just like and celebrate the success of our friends.
Yeah.
Because yeah.
In that spirit, I'll use my shout out. You can follow me at Trevor J. Starkey, but I will give my shout outs to Greg and Jen Miller, who obviously sadly lost Portillo this last week. And the outpouring of love and support for Portillo has been beautiful to watch and see how, like, that little dog who touched so many of us is out there, it's affected so many lives, and we can kind of collectively grieve. And I also give a shout out to our friend Alex Van Aken, who looks like he's going through some tough family stuff at the moment. So sending love and well wishes and condolences all of their ways, because they are some incredibly special people in our circles, and it's never fun to see people suffering and having to go through that stuff. So sending all the love to them. You follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site, all the stuff we do over at thatnerdysite.com. Once again, if you liked what you heard, please like, rate, review, subscribe, share the podcast with your friends, hit notification bells, all that stuff. Don't punch throats. Don't slap. You don't need to do any of that. Just like click a button. But yeah, thank you for listening. Thank you for joining me again, Cam. As always, stay nerdy and be good to each other.